Hello and welcome back to Scaled Down Customs. So, continuing the build of the Revell Apollo 11 Astronaut on the Moon. So when we last left off, I had everything in primer, just my gray rattle can primer. And then I put a coat of white on the backpack. Then I realized what I should have done was sprayed it in a white primer and then painted it with the white. So that's what I did. So I went over everything that's going to be in white. I went over it with the Mr. Base White 1000, the Mr. Hobby White primer. And then I just went over it with the TS27, the Tamiya color. I think this is their just their basic, the matte white. So that's where we're at this point. So I'm now kind of ready to start getting some touch-up painting done, some touch-up painting on the suit and the backpack. Before I do that though, I want to get a wash on some of these things. So I think to do that, I think I'm just going to try the Mr. Weathering multi-black. I'll just kind of dab that on, then thin it down and see how this does. I'll do it in a couple areas. I'll probably do it on the back of the backpack here just to see how it's going to work out. So we'll try that. And then for these two pieces, they need to be in kind of like a gold or a copper. So I think what I might do is maybe a 50-50 mix of the gold titanium and the copper and see how that plays out. I was going to do that with the pale gold. I think that would look better. I'm almost out of the pale gold, so maybe I'll wait till I can get another pale gold and then I'll try a 50-50 mix of this, because the gold titanium is a little bit kind of a darker, duller gold. So I think the 50-50 blend with the copper would look a little better. But anyway, we'll give that a shot. But what I am going to do with the pale gold, so obviously, I could spend some time detailing the face on this and just really highlighting everything in there. But I think what I'm going to do, because in just some pictures of astronaut photos, I just think it looks so much better with the shield golded out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint the backside pale gold, and we'll see how that looks. Of course, that'll cover up everything, all the face detail. So I probably won't be painting all the face detail on the astronaut himself, because I'm just going to paint the shield. But I like the look better of just the gold-plated shield, the face shield down. So I think I'm going to do that. Anyway, so that's kind of where we're at. Oh, and one more thing that I wanted to do was, I think for my base plate, I am going to try to, I have a fire pit, and I had the idea of, similar to the flocking method when I put carpet in the cars, I want to try that with just some campfire ash. So I'll put down a glue substance and then sprinkle on some ash to give that kind of a dusty moon surface look. Anyway, I had an idea. I don't know if that's going to work, but we'll give it a shot. And then I'll mask this off, and this will be painted a different color anyway. So that's where we're at. That's what we're going to be doing here. So I've got my camera painted black, so I'll be doing some touch-up painting for that. And then this piece will be calls for blue, so we'll be painting that as well. And I'm not showing the painting on this because I have to use a rattle can, because my paint booth is too small for this big of a figure and trying to use a rattle can. So I've been painting this outside, so I don't really have a way to film that. So that's why I'm not, you're not seeing any of my actual painting happening. Anyway, so let's get some pieces painted and keep going with this build. All right, so for the chest piece, I originally painted it just the regular Tamiya blue, and I thought that looked way too dark. So I repainted it with the Tamiya Sky Blue, the X14. So I think that looks better on that. So that's ready for some detail painting. And then for this, I did mix about 50-50 with the gold titanium and the copper and did the inside. And I got it dusted up a little bit on me, so I'm gonna have to wet sand this out to smoothen that out a little bit. And I thought it needed a little more gold. So on the ladder extension and the foot plate, I did 2/3 gold and then 1/3 copper. So, but I still think it needs a little more gold. So I am gonna wait until I get more pale gold, and then I'll try a mix with this, and maybe, yeah, I think that needs a little bit more of a gold look. So I'll be repainting these as well. And then this is how that face shield turned out. Kind of an interesting look. Anyway, I like that better, so we're gonna go with that. All right, so I just masked off around the edge and just sprayed this with Alclad copper, Alclad 2, the copper. So now I want to add a little bit of weathering on there to make those letters stand out a little bit more. And I want to do this before I put the fireplace ash on top, because I don't want any of it to soak into the ash and then not be able to fix that. So I'm going to do my weathering first. I painted these two rocks. I painted them sky gray, but that almost looks exactly the same color as primer. Anyway, so we're going to weather this off, and then probably what I'll try to do is mask off these little rocks. And then I think the easiest way to do this is going to be to use some sort of a spray adhesive so I can coat the whole thing and then sprinkle the whole thing so I get a nice uniform finish on that. So that's what we're going to work on now. So for my weathering, I'm going to use the same technique, my Mr. Hobby Multi-Black and the 110, the Solvent 110, and a bunch of Q-tips and a larger brush. All right, I'm liking that. Play with it kind of a little bit just to kind of get the look I want. But I think I like that. So I'm gonna let that dry up, and then we'll work on putting the moon dust on. All right, so we got the decals on, and then I got sprayed it with some Mr. Hobby Dull Coat. They're matte clear, just to seal everything in and help the decals look like patches rather than decals. So coming along with that, and then the backpack, just masked off those squares, cut them out, sprayed the pale gold. So after I put the decals on, again, I sealed this with the matte clear because I didn't want my tape peeling up the decals, which will happen. So got everything sealed in, looking pretty good. So just a little touch up paint left to do on the backpack and the body, some of the snaps and buttons, and then some of the connectors. So let's get some touch up painting done and get this thing assembled. Oh, and then I'll show you the base plate. That actually came out looking really good. So again, this is just ash from my fire pit. I used just some Mod Podge spray, just some pump spray. So I wet the thing down, sprinkled the fire pit ash on there just the same way you do the flocking for the interiors on the cars. And then I oversprayed it with the glue, the Mod Podge, just to let everything set in there so it's good and hard and won't brush off. And then I masked up these things as well so they were protected from the glue and the ash. Anyway, so that's looking pretty good. I just need to add a little bit of dull coat on those two rocks. They're a little bit shiny, and that'll be ready for assembly. All right, so let's do some detail painting. All right, I just did a little more touch-up paint, but I think we're ready to get this thing put together. So let's start doing some assembly. And then for my assembly, I'm just going to be using some CA glue, some extra thick for a little bit extra bond, and then my gap filling medium. And then for my visor, I'll be using the Super Gold Plus, the Clear Parts Safe glue for the visor. All right, well, that concludes this build. That was a little bit of a challenge to film, actually, more than it was to build, just because it was so big. Just trying to get everything filmed so you guys can kind of see how I was doing this. Hopefully it was enough to at least get the basic idea. But anyway, I think that's a wrap for this one. I still need to put some dull coat on these rocks there. I put a couple coats on there, but they're still too shiny, so I'll see what I can do with that. But anyway, so there you go. That's been kind of an interesting build, something a little bit different. So I think that'll complete the series on this build. So I appreciate your support. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.